Welcome back to Lost Monarch Week. We're going to do a blind flight. Not blind. Why did I say blind? I didn't mean blind. We're just going to do a flight. We're going to do a flight of Bourye. Okay? So over here we have High West, which everybody knows I love High West. You know, I know, everybody knows. This entire new shelf is nothing but High West. My High West collection was taking up too much space on my main shelves. I had to add whole separate shelving just for High West. So if you're going to compare Lost Monarch, which is a Bourye, to anything, you've got to compare it to High West. And honestly, I think about these two companies along in very similar vein. They are doing very interesting things with whiskey. They're newer distilleries, and they are growing into making all their own stuff. So that is amazing to me, and I love that. So of course, a flight of Bourye isn't a flight of Bourye without the Bourye. Next up, we have Wyoming Whiskey's Outrider, which is also a Bourye. It is. I could read the mash bills, but let's not do that right now. Let's just do this. And I just went over the previous video, the mash bill for Lost Monarch, so I'm not going to do that again. The last entry in this blind is Four Gates Bourye, which is another Bourye. And it is Kentucky and MGP. Pretty sure this is MGP rye. Don't know what this is, but probably some MGP in there as well. And then Wyoming Whiskey, I can't remember. I'm drawing a blank and I didn't look. And it doesn't say on the bottle. Just says bottled and bond, blah, 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 blah. I can't remember. I can't remember if it's their own stuff or not. Anyway, let's do this. This one is blended by the great Nancy Fraley, just saying. So, what are you going to do with that? I mean, how do you fight with that? I mean, how do you go up against Nancy? It's tough. Well, let's see. Let's just go through these. I honestly don't expect Redwood Empire's Lost Monarch to win this flight. These other bottles are, some of them, significantly more expensive. Some older whiskey. Now, Lost Monarch has some older stuff in it too, but it also has some younger stuff. So it'll be interesting. Let's just do this. Let's just do it. We're going to compare them all. We're going to A/B them. And I'm going to decide, I'm going to kind of rank these in order of what I think is the best Bourye on the market. And we're going to talk about value prop too. So who wins it? Maybe value prop plays into the final calculus there. So High West, Bourye. Son of a gun. Loads of caramel. Loads of caramel. Beautiful chocolate, but it's like runny, gooey lava cake chocolate or maybe brownie batter. Not quite close, but not quite to brownie batter. On the nose, the rye isn't super outrageous. It's not jumping in your face. And you can tell it's there, but it's not. Wah! Rye shows up on the palate. Very nice. Honestly, a little muted. The rye's a little understated on that. It goes a little puff of rye and then into traditional bourbon-esque flavors. Caramels, oaks, vanillas, a little cherry. The rye is very understated. Impressive. And, you know, it could be that I just came off of reviewing that, tasting that, which has a very vibrant, very forward rye note. We'll see when we get there in a minute. That's interesting. I don't remember High West Bourye being that understated in the rye department. Outrider from Wyoming. Oh, that's got some funky stuff. Wow, okay, that's pretty wild on the nose. It's man, I'm not even sure how to describe that. I haven't had a sip of this in a while. It's very caramely. It's very vanilla'd. I barely even picking up the rye on the nose. It's so much more creamy and vanilla'd and more. It tastes more like a bourbon, or smells more like a bourbon. But it's got some funky notes that I find on some other things, like kind of on some new riff stuff, on some of the what are those? The pinhook. I find this little funky note on some pinhook stuff too. Very nice citrus. It leans a little more lemon than orange. Oh, there's the rye. Rye shows up on the palate. Really nice rye, really nice citrus. On the palate, it's a little more orange than lemon, but still, it's like, man, it's like if you took a Sprite and, because there is that like a little lemon lime to it, and squeezed an orange or some orange juice into there. It's like a little mix of citrus. Wow, but beautiful, beautiful. Back to the Lost Monarch. Oh, wow. After trying this smells, those are manipulating my senses, I think, because this smells wildly different than it did when I just reviewed it a few moments ago. It's so interesting what can happen when you're doing a flight. I was doing a Zoom the other night with some buddies, and we were doing 5 different whiskeys, and it totally manipulates your impression of a whiskey. It's really interesting. And, unless you're really drinking water and resetting yourself in between each whiskey, it's very hard to do a flight because of the way they manipulate each other. And, there's no getting around it. Even if you go through one way and then back the other, take a break, come back, whatever you try first is going to manipulate what comes next. This now is all cinnamon and sugar, and this is all cinnamon and sugar and like candied. Oh yeah, and then that singy, beautiful soprano rye note. Ooh. That is interestingly better after trying these two than it was by itself. So, be a weird marketing campaign, right? Listen, drink our whiskey, but before drinking it, have a little bit of High West Bourye, and then have a little bit of Wyoming Whiskey Outrider, and then sip Redwood Empire. It's amazing. That would be a weird, ad campaign, right? I don't know. Maybe it'd be fun. All right, on to the 4-gate. That's interesting. There are notes from the Bourye, High West, and the Outrider that I'm finding in the 4-gate. I don't find a lot of similarity between the Redwood. This has a significantly more rye to it on my perception. I don't know about the blend, but it's way raunchier and bigger rye notes in that. That's like syrup. Wow. You know what? It's nice of my dog to decide right now to take a drink in the middle of my video. But what are you going to do? I got to tell you, the 4-gate is not my favorite of these 4. And that's kind of depressing because it's the most expensive by more than double all the rest of these. More than double. This is a $40 bottle. This was a $60-ish bottle. And this was an $80-ish bottle. This is a $200 bottle. So what the heck? Okay, so 4-gate. 4-gate's losing this battle 100%. Because, 1, I don't think it's my favorite thing here. And 2, it's double the price point. So, it's not, sorry, that's not getting it. My favorite nose. Man, my favorite nose keeps changing. It keeps changing between the Outrider and the Bourye. And then, depending on which order I smell them in, back to the Lost Monarch. But palate-wise, I've got to give it to the Outrider. That's just friggin' delicious. So good on the palate. On the nose, I get that funky note that I was talking about that I get in New Riff and sometimes in New Riff and in Pinhook. I don't love that note. So on the nose, I kind of get that note here, and so that's kind of a negative for it. But the palate on the Outrider, amazing. The nose on the High West gets a little funky, but like a musty funk to it. Kind of cool with that. I like that. But the Redwood Empire has the prettiest rye nose. Now, obviously, these are Bourye, so they're not meant to be ryes. They're a blend. But I think the pretty rye notes in the nose of the Redwood Empire are really talking to me right now. So on the nose, I'm going to give it to Redwood because it's a beautiful nose. On the palate, I'm going to give it to the Outrider from Wyoming. Fantastic. So interestingly enough, a $40 bottle holds up pretty well in a flight of more expensive Bourye's. So there you go. Thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, I hope you have a great day.